Okay, little nerds, have you guys ever realized that no one has ever complimented your forehead? And yet we spend so much time thinking about how our forehead is going to age to the point where we ask ourselves, do we need Botox in our forehead to prevent it from aging at all? It's a little bit ridiculous if you really take a step back, but that is a fact of life, and that is something that is currently happening within our society, whether you like it or not. Who the hell am I? I'm a board-certified dermatologist. My name is Shereene Idriss. I practice dermatology, and I focus mostly on cosmetics, and I see nearly 80 to 100 patients a week. So if you don't know who I am, welcome. Feel free to subscribe to my channel, like the video. You can let me know what you want to learn about next week. But this week, we're going to talk about preventative Botox and Botox in general. What is it? How does it work? What does it do? Why do we need it? And why the hell is preventative Botox a thing? Because I feel as a provider that the societal pressure is just mounting into this sort of pressure cooker where it really shouldn't be, because everybody is different and we all have a different path. So if you understand what Botox does, how it works, and why we do it, you'll make a smarter decision for yourself and not because your friend got it. So step back. A few years ago, I was describing the difference between Botox and filler to my best friend. And she looked at me in disbelief because she thought to herself, not people are doing this, but Botox is a powder? And I was surprised that that's what shook her, that Botox was a powder. She thought Botox came as a liquid plastic that you inserted under the skin. Now, I know this may sound ridiculous to many. I have learned never to judge. But instead, I thought to myself, if this human in front of me, who I love dearly, thinks Botox is a liquid plastic, someone else does. And I don't care how many sci-fi movies she may or may not have watched. It is something that people think. So back to the basics. Botox, this guy. It has become synonymous with the stuff inside the vial. What do I mean by that? It's like Kleenex and tissue papers. People say, give me a Kleenex when they're saying, give me a tissue paper, because they're not actually using a Kleenex, which is a brand. Botox is a brand. There are other forms on the market today. Dysport, Jeuveau, Xeomin, Daxxify. We're not going to get into the differences between them right now. Not important. We want to understand the essence of it. But it comes, for the most part, in a powder form, just like this. A tiny little powder. And you may ask yourself, where is that powder derived from? That powder is derived from a bacteria known as Clostridium botulinum. Yes, a bacteria, but it is not potent like the bacteria. It has been distilled in a manufacturing process in a lab to be put in a small little vial in a safe amount. So don't worry, you're not going to get botulism and go completely paralyzed, but you will get paralyzed wherever you inject it. And that is something that cosmetic providers, doctors, nurses, PAs hate to say. The P word is almost a sin within the beauty industry, paralysis, because people get scared. But the reality is, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. We are paralyzing you. That is ultimately what Botox is doing. And we'll get into how it works. But first, how do you prepare it? And why is it a powder if my provider is injecting a liquid? We dilute this powder with essentially water, i.e. saline. And the way you dilute the powder is the more water you add, the less potent it becomes. The less water you add, the more potent it becomes. And we've noticed that the potency of the injection can be correlated to how long it lasts in your face. So if you're going somewhere that just says we're doing Botox here without really specifying how much you're getting injected, you might be taken for a ride, overpaying for what you're getting because you think, I'm getting this much in the syringe, but it might be super diluted. And yes, this has happened to my patients who have gone to other providers coming in confused because they got this much Botox in their face. I had to explain that to you guys. So Botox, how does it work? When you inject it into the muscle, you're not going to paralyze this muscle, you're going to paralyze this muscle. Muscles contract. How do muscles contract? They have nerves within the muscles that communicate. They talk to each other saying, open door, chemical goes through, closed door, muscle contracts. That's essentially how it works. The chemical that goes through one door into the other door is known as acetylcholine. And Botox blocks the doors from opening and closing. It's of no importance right now if it's the door this way or this way that gets blocked. Know that it blocks the doors so that the chemical is just floating in the purgatory, not really communicating with the other nerve, unable to allow the muscle to contract. And therefore, that is how you get paralyzed. That is a very simplistic way of describing how Botox works. And the goal of Botox is to address lines that are formed through dynamic movement. So if you're somebody who's always talking like this because, you look constantly stunned, Botox is going to calm your forehead down so you're not constantly stunned. And hopefully the goal is over time, these dynamic lines that you would have gotten deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper as you age and as your collagen gets weaker will not become deeper and deeper and deeper as you age and as your collagen gets weaker. It will slow it down. There are also static lines that we get as we get older, lines that develop in areas where there isn't really movement. But those lines will never get targeted by Botox because the reality is we are going to age, and that is a beautiful thing. And quite frankly, it is a privilege. The older I get, every year you thank whatever it is you believe in for your good health and the fact that you're aging. But as you age, your collagen breaks down, your elastin breaks down, the world takes a toll, the sun takes a toll, your genetics come into play, and you start to develop lines on the surface of your skin. But have you ever noticed that we don't talk about preventative filler? Because you might ask yourself, if those lines are going to form because the collagen is thinning out, why aren't people getting preventative filler? Well, I hope you've never heard of that. And if you have, I don't know, I'm a little bit mortified. But this then leads me to the question of preventative Botox, because it's sort of the same thought process. If I'm constantly stunned, if I slow it down, am I going to eventually slow down the line that gets formed? And the answer is yes, there is a preventative element to Botox over time. But who should get preventative Botox before any line is formed is the golden question of the hour. And it's an ethical one and a subjective one, and one that therefore has many different opinions. Because preventative Botox is by nature what Botox does. If you're somebody who already has a line formed in the middle of your forehead because you frown so much, but you start getting Botox, let's say at 35, because that line already formed at rest, by the time you hit 55, that line will not be as deep and it might not be apparent at all because you've prevented it from actually getting deeper over time, right? But if you're 18, you just popped out of the eggshell, literally, you popped out of the eggshell like today. And you see all of these beautiful human beings on social getting Botox at 17 and 18. You think to yourself, that's so smart. If I just block my movement from ever forming, I'll never get a line, right? This is where the line gets blurry. Because, and it's a subjective opinion, but this is what I think. We are put on this planet to live. We are put on this planet to experience different emotions. We are put on this planet to progress and hopefully, ideally, to age and to experience different times in life. And I don't want to sound patronizing, and I don't want to sound like holier than thou, and I don't want to sound like I'm giving you a moral lesson. But you're put on this planet to enjoy it. And you're given the body and the face that you are given. If you're going to start stressing out at 18, 19, 20 about preventative Botox before you've ever started to live, you're misplacing your stress on the wrong thing. Trust me when I tell you, you're going to get other obstacles that are going to come your way that are going to be more concerning than you getting preventative Botox starting at 18, 19, or 20. And the reality is, when you start too young, forget my subjective opinion. As you get Botox over time, let's say hypothetically, because Botox really just lasts 12 weeks, let's say on average. If you get Botox every 12 weeks to the dot, every single time, and you never allow your movement to come back, over many years, that muscle is going to become paper thin and atrophy. And over time, you're probably going to look kind of dropped like this, and you're going to look flat, completely flat. That's the hypothetical, right? So imagine starting that at a young age, 18, 19, 20, where initially Botox might have the glory days of lasting you 6 months, but over time, it's only going to really last you 3 months. And because you're so used to seeing yourself not emoting, you're going to feel like you need it before any emotion comes back. So now you're up to doing it maybe 3-4 times a year. Your face is going to lose the essence of who it is. You're never going to allow your face to grow into the face that tells the stories of the life that you've lived. And you might say, but I live a traumatic life. I don't want those stories showing on my face. I get it. But the reality is also this. You want to have the essence of you on your face. You want to be able to emote. You want to be able to smile. You want to be able to frown. And you might tell yourself, great, I don't need to do it now. But you don't need to do it until you develop the lines there at rest. So once the lines form on your face, at rest and they become static lines, but they were lines that were formed from movement, I'll tell you that is probably a good gauge of when you should start thinking about it if this is something you want to do for yourself. But if you have 0 lines on your face, it is purely a fear mongering marketing tactic that unfortunately the beauty industry, the industry that I am part of and that I love so dearly, has pushed forward in terms of messaging. And it's created a psychosocial burden on people because not only is it psychologically heavy, it's also financially a burden if you think about it, because at 19, you probably don't have the funds for Botox when done correctly to be put in your face every 6 months, eventually every 5 months, eventually every 4 months. And so you don't want to get yourself into a very expensive habit. And when I say when done correctly, it's because you could think you're getting yourself a Groupon deal, but it's probably just being diluted. And the Botox you're getting is probably not lasting you that long at all. I think it's something that should be discussed further. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I deal with this in my practice a lot and I turn people away every day. At least I have one that I turn away. And I think it's something that we should discuss further as a group, as a community, as a society. And I wanted to shed light on it with you guys because I know you're hearing that term preventative Botox thrown around a lot. And you're asking yourself, wait, do I need it? Am I missing the train? All my friends are getting it. Why didn't I get it? But the reality is the way your friend is aging is not the way you're aging. And their skin is not your skin and their genetics are not yours. And so if you don't have any lines built in on your face as of yet, don't do it. I personally get it done probably every 5 to 6 months. I let my movement come back. So the last time I did my Botox now was in February. I can't really frown yet. I used to frown a lot and I had a deep line actually in the middle of my eyebrows, believe it or not. And I started doing Botox at 29-ish in residency because we had to practice on each other. And that line eventually disappeared. Now that line does come back when my movement fully comes back. It's not like it disappeared completely even at rest. But when my Botox is more or less active, you don't really see it. But I like that the movement comes back. I'm not scared that these lines are there. And I'm not scared when I smile that I have crow's feet. It's just a matter of slowing it down slowly over time in a way where you can retain the essence of who you are without being scared of aging into the face that I hope you can age into, if that makes any sense. So PSA for little 20-somethings. Not that you're so little, I know, but Botox should be used as an adjunct to a healthy lifestyle, to a quality skincare routine, and to products that you're using that are targeting your problems. If you're nervous about developing fine lines because you think your genetics are not that great, start using a retinol. Figure out how to get that into your routine. If you're nervous about getting really red because you have rosacea that runs in your family, figure out how to keep your skin barrier calm and restored at all times. Things like that. Also, FYI, you do not need intense laser treatments like a CO2 laser for the fine lines that are already starting to form underneath your eyes. True story. My mom gave me an eye cream at 12 years old, a La Prairie eye cream at 12 years old because I had lines underneath my eyes because guess what? Genetics. I had the worst allergic reaction to it and it was something that I could not tolerate and I was inflamed for like 2 weeks around my eyes because of it. And that is normal to have lines around your eyes. The point is, it's completely normal. So if you're 21 thinking I need to erase all the lines around my eyes because I want to look filtered, you're misleading yourself because ultimately you're probably going to do yourself a disservice because if you do way too many of those lasers over time, you're going to look waxy. And that's a story for another day. People need to think of their face as a journey. It's a trajectory. It's not in the now that you're trying to treat. This brings me to the provider. Finding the right provider for you is of utmost importance. And I tell this to the people who come into my office. It's me or it's not me. You gotta find who you vibe with, whose aesthetic you respect, and whose approach you trust. Because it's very easy to take advantage of people when you are working within the cosmetic industry. I am telling you this as a provider. I could literally come in and be like, oh, you have a lot of lines around your eyes, and build a new concern for you. Give you a new complex, rather, you know? But I don't do that because I have a moral compass that I want to be judged at the end of the day. And I want to go to sleep with a clear conscience when I go to sleep at night. And I think of my daughter. And so you want to find somebody who you trust, who's not going to take advantage of your insecurities or try to create new ones for you. And you also want to make sure that you trust their aesthetic. You trust their approach. You like their viewpoint. You like their philosophy. Because all of that plays a role into how you get injected and how you come out of the office and how you look, not just today, but in 10 years. So go live your life, go buy that experience, go travel. Honestly, go buy that plane ticket to that country that you want to go visit instead of using that money every 4 months at 18, 19, or 20 to get Botox because you're scared of life showing on your face. I hope this was helpful. I'm really curious to read the comments and to see what you guys think below. And yeah, if you guys have any other topics that you want to discuss or you want to understand further, let's jump in. See you guys next Saturday.